Our topic today, as you probably gathered from some of the handouts on the tables, is protecting yourself from scams and frauds. We've all experienced that unfamiliar phone number that we answer only to have an automated voice tell us about our extended car warranty or some kind of unexpected problem. But there are hundreds of online and impersonal scams that target victims to access your money and personal information. Our speakers today are experts in the world of frauds, scams, and abuse, and they are here to teach us more about the most common scams and how to prevent becoming a victim. Christian Gardner Wood is Chief Deputy District Attorney for Boulder County, where he oversees the Community Protection Division and prosecutions involving elder abuse and major financial fraud. Christian also chairs the Colorado Human Trafficking Council and regularly presents on child abuse, trafficking, financial exploitation, and elder abuse. Desiree Firle is the Community Protection Specialist in the Boulder County District Attorney's Office, where she helps resolve consumer disputes and supports cases involving elder abuse and the exploitation of vulnerable community members. Please give a warm welcome to Christian Gardner Wood and Desiree Firle.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be back at Rotary. I've had the honor of speaking at Rotary in the past. I've had the honor of being a guest at this Rotary lunch, a guest of our DA, Michael Doherty, in the past. So always love to be here at Rotary, and excited to talk to you today about a topic that Peter and folks from Rotary had reached out asking if we could present in terms of scams and fraud. It's something that we deal with far too often at the DA's office. I'm sure something that you all deal with far too often in your own lives and with your loved ones. And it's also an area where we're excited as the DA's office because we can do some of this proactive work. We'll talk more about that in a minute, but there's a lot of areas of the work that we do that's very reactionary, but it's important for our elected DA, for Michael Doherty, that where we can, that we try to deal with things on the front end. So we're not having people that are being victimized, and that's part of our efforts in the Community Protection Division to do outreach, to be at community events, to come to community organizations like the great Rotary Club here in Boulder, to do some of this proactive work. Oh, I went the wrong way. He told me, and I didn't learn. I'm a slow learner, you know. It's 20 years of being a prosecutor, and I'm still slowly learning. Want to do some background just talking about the mission of the DA's office, and that's about public safety, seeking justice in every case, enhancing community safety overall, fighting for victims, and improving the justice system. And when I talk about our Community Protection Division, that's both about seeking justice, but also enhancing community safety on that front-end proactive side like I talked about. As many of you are aware, we prosecute criminal cases based on a violation of state law, not municipal ordinances in the municipalities, but rather Colorado state law, and prosecuting violations of that, ranging from low-level thefts up through and including first-degree murder. And we're honored to be public servants and to work in this community and to really do that fight for justice every day. It's what's kept me being a prosecutor in the state of Colorado for 20 years. So first, it's worth noting a couple of things. What we see here is, scams and frauds are something that's here to stay. What we always know and what people think of when they think of theft, when they think of crime, is kind of what we see on the left, right? A strong-armed bank robbery, people coming in with a gun, horrific circumstance. It happens, we will prosecute it, and we will do so seeking justice in that case. But a lot of times what people don't think about is what we see on the right side, right? That's your scams and frauds. That's that financial theft and people coming into your cell phone, onto your computer, reaching out to you, talking to you to gain the same, if not more money that they're getting from the bank robbery in the left. But that's what people think of as the crime and forget about those underlying scam artists and fraudsters that are coming in through the computer, through the cell phone, through your emails. Also, the difference is, and this is why our Community Protection Division focuses on scams and frauds, elder abuse, financial crimes, is because when we think about the scams and frauds on the right, there are ways that we can protect ourselves. There's ways to be proactive in that. There's certainly ways to deal with, those persons crimes, with the robbery, with the strong arm theft, but that's much harder. The people in this bank, in this image capture, there's not a whole lot we can do proactively for them to protect themselves because they don't know when these folks are coming through the door. You may not know when the person is coming through the computer or coming through your cell phone, but you can proactively protect yourself. And that's what this talk is really focused on trying to assist with.
So when we think about scams and fraud, we always want to put a number to this. So through the Federal Trade Commission, there's some information on there of what are the top 5 areas that we as Colorado residents are losing money. The first one are investments and advice. Sometimes these are actual legitimate investment and advice organizations or businesses, but a lot of times they're attached to another scam, such as romance scams. The second leading reported fraud is government imposters with $40 million. Christian's going to go over romance scams a little bit, but this is another huge area where $26 million was lost by people getting involved with romance scams. All these numbers that are in front of you are low, because what we know is that a lot of these scams go underreported, which is why the Community Protection Office exists, as well as the Attorney General's Office has a consumer fraud unit, and then the Federal Trade Commission, because we all work together to try to figure out what the numbers look like and how we can educate the community on what they need to do if they do come across a scam. So I have a counterpart that works out in City of Lafayette, and he has 4 pages of different types of scams that he has seen throughout his entire career. Let me just say that if a scammer can create it, they'll create anything to scam people out of money. It'll be things like Marshall Fire scams, where people are asking for charity donations for a fake charity. Cryptocurrency fraud, where someone will call saying that they want you to invest in Bitcoin. A lot of email scams and text message scams, phishing scams. How many of us have never experienced any kind of scam through your computer, cell phone, email?
Not a single hand.
Okay, we had a slight hand over in that area. I'm guessing you probably don't have a cell phone, don't have a computer, have a landline, and might live in a cave, which I have come across a few people in doing this work where they haven't been scammed ever. And it's because they really do limit their technology. So we're going to go over some of the most common scams that we see, especially in my work. I'm the individual, if you contact our office, you'll talk with me or one of my volunteers. But what I can share with you right now is that the 3 main areas that people get scammed through more commonly is through social media. Those are your Facebook, your Instagram, even your TikTok. Sometimes it's because you purchase a product through there or you're on Facebook Marketplace. The next one is websites or apps in general. You go to a shopping website because you're looking for that really discounted item. You put in your financial bank information or credit card information, only to find out that the website is not a legitimate website. And then, of course, phones and text messages. We have some examples a little bit later, but these are probably the most common reasons we get calls from people is because they don't know if something is true or not. Because there's so many ways to opt into our bank that sometimes scammers will pretend to be our banks.
All right, romance scams. This is something that I will tell you has been really difficult in my career in terms of dealing with. It sounds too good to be true, right? And that's usually the problem. Whether it's romance scams, whether it's the fake website where you think you're purchasing a product, it's usually because that product sounds too good to be true. I'll out myself. Probably 15 years ago, Roombas were new and very expensive. People know what I'm talking about, kind of that robot vacuum cleaner. I was like, oh, that's awesome, but way too expensive on a government salary. And I came across a thing where it was 150 bucks. I'm like, oh, that's great. I know it's not the actual Roomba, but if it works even slightly like that, it's a great deal. I did get a product. They didn't just steal my account, but I will tell you that product was maybe a $15 product that I spent $150 on, right? I got caught up in that scam of it's too good to be true, and unfortunately was out that $150. But romance scams, this is one that I find really difficult because they're targeting individuals that are lonely, targeting people that don't have connections or looking to make connections. And the way it works is, you know, they reach out and they build rapport, maybe contacting the victim multiple times a day, creating that sense of connection. This is, in the scam world, what we call the long game, right? This isn't the person that's wanting somebody just to click on a link one time, wants to get in and out, get the money. No, they're doing the long game, which is also what makes it difficult from a reporting standpoint and from an investigation standpoint. Because it's a long game, because they build that rapport, they may show an expertise, they may show some care and love. They will remember what the person said, so when they contact them a week ago, we'll say, hey, how did your surgery go? Hey, how's your mom doing? How are things in your life? It builds that rapport and that connection, particularly for somebody that may need that connection, may not have those friendships, those love interests in their life. But then it flips, and then they create the story around, hey, it's been 2 weeks, it's been 2 months, and I really want to come to the United States, but I don't have any money. Or my son is really sick, but I don't have the money to pay for his surgery. Whatever excuse you can think of, that then comes about. Where if that excuse came on day one, that doesn't work, right? That's why this is the long game. This is why it becomes kind of that romance scam. They build that rapport because now you feel like you have a connection with that person. And just like we would our next door neighbor, we'd want to help them and say, well, if you really need this surgery, and I may have a few bucks that I can give you, and then that continues to build over time. I had a case years ago where law enforcement did get involved, the DA's office got involved, but this was unfortunately an elderly victim who fell for this romance scam, but ultimately refused to believe it was a scam. And even as we were saying, this is a scam, we are telling you this is a scam, here are other scams, here's other text messages other people got that look exactly like yours. That may be, but this isn't a scam. I love this person, I care about this person, and end of the day, even if I am scammed, I'm fine that they took my money because I have somebody that I can talk to. And that was heartbreaking for me, that we had this older adult that was living in a senior care facility that felt like, even though you're telling me I'm being scammed, one, I don't believe you, and two, even if I am, you know what? It's at least somebody I'm talking to, and if that means I'm paying them money, I'm paying them money. That's what's heartbreaking about these scams, but also thinking about that big picture view about this being the long game, and it's not just clicking a link, it's not just answering one phone call. This could be something that happens for us over time.
And just to go along with the romance scams too, is that it's really emotional, and I don't think people really understand that. So my background is I'm an MSW, And when people tell me about, hey, my neighbor is in a romance scam, I don't think her boyfriend is really her boyfriend, he's an oil rig worker off the coast of Texas, they tell me all these things when I go out and do these presentations. And what I tell them first is, don't tell them that it's a scam, because that's gonna cut off all communication and isolate them further. Instead, act like it is an actual relationship, because you need to get that person to the place of realizing that maybe this relationship isn't a true relationship and it is a scam. But it is gut-wrenching when we come across this, and in my work, I hear it far too often. The next type of scam, has anyone ever seen this scam? The parking ticket scam? Yes. It comes in by a text message or an email. It looks fairly scary because there's a lot of Colorado revised statutes that are mentioned. It has the seal of the state of Colorado. It looks legitimate. But when you read through it in full, you have to question yourself. You have to question what you're reading a lot of times, because so much of what we read, we don't fully read. We just kind of scan over it. And in this type of document, we're only scanning over the bold features, and then we see a QR code. And we're more likely to jump to the QR code and scan it. Well, let me tell you, if you receive this and you scan that QR code, it takes you to a website that looks like the state of Colorado. It doesn't have the same URL. It only uses the logo and the exact same wording with the state of Colorado Department of Transportation. But what I can tell you is that this one is fake. We received these a few weeks ago or maybe a month ago from individuals because they wanted to know, why am I getting this? My first question usually is, well, have you parked in Denver? And they said, no, I don't even own a car. Well, that's probably a good sign that this is a scam. But whenever we get stuff like this individually, feel free to give our office a call, because we're always looking through this information to help people understand if it's a scam or not, because we don't want our community members to scan that QR code, go to that fake website and put in their financial information, and then the scammer has their debit card information or their credit card information. But they'll use real logos, they'll use real names of real individuals with the state, and real addresses. But once you scan that QR code, it's fake.
One couple quick pieces of advice that I would suggest on this too is, one, absolutely, if you have that hesitation, don't click the link, don't scan the QR code, don't give money. But also when I talk to people, there's certain things that start to come out when you really study this, right? The idea is that urgency. The idea is to scare people. And you see this, and I'd be scared. I'd be like, wait a second, I didn't pay a ticket? And this is the final notice? Uh-oh, like that's not, Michael Doherty's not gonna love if I'm, getting a default judgment against me as his chief deputy. Okay, so it creates that. But you start looking a little bit closer, it starts to not make a whole lot of sense. This is a really good one, but even in this, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I'll give you a couple quick things that I see when I look at this. One, it says violation is a parking violation and or a toll violation. Well, those are two very different things when I think about it, and I'm not expecting the average citizen to know this, but as a prosecutor, I'm like, well, there's parking violations and there's toll violations. Those aren't the same. You wouldn't put that under the violation. You'd be very clear about what the violation is. Same thing with the authority, right? They're talking about Colorado revised statute. That's Colorado law. Anybody know what the problem is with that? There's no parking violations that are state law violations. That's 100% right. State law does not regulate parking. Those are municipal violations. So that's something that I would look at. Again, not saying every average citizen is going to know that, but as you start to dig in, there's things that don't make sense. Last one I'll point out, because I'm a lawyer and I know there's a number of lawyers in the room. I will talk too much and I don't want to do that. I want to give us time for questions, is Paul Lopez. That's the real name of a person in Denver. But if you actually looked into that, he's not the clerk of court in Denver. He's actually the county clerk and recorder in Denver. Two very different positions, official positions, but very different from being clerk of court versus county clerk and recorder. So some of it, they do a really nice job, but you can start to spot errors if you really dig into it. And this is where, again, not expecting people to know this, but if they contact our office, we would look at this, and with our knowledge, we'd be able to tell somebody very quickly, this is not valid, don't worry about this, you're fine, this is a scam. So next one, and I'll give you a heads up, it may be anxiety inducing, it is for me. I went one too far. Not only is this a lot on the screen, which is partially anxiety inducing to me, but it's also anxiety inducing for me because I've had this, whether it's on my phone or on my computer. You go to a website and suddenly you start getting all these pop-ups. You're like, oh, my computer is so important. My phone is so important. It's telling me that I'm now locked out of my phone. I'm now locked out of my computer. It's creating that sense of urgency, just like we've talked about with a number of these scams. And we know how important the computer is, or our bank account information is, or our email, and we don't want anything to happen with that. And then one last problem, and my mom actually got caught up in one of these, even though I've talked to her about scams and she knows what I do for a living. She was a longtime state juvenile probation officer, pretty savvy woman, but she's like, no, this is real because my computer has not been acting very, very well recently. My computer is slow. And so the pop-up is saying, like, there's a problem with your computer. There's a performance issue. Well, now it felt like it had some truth for her because it matched her experience that, you know what, my computer is kind of old and slow. This is probably real. They know that Microsoft knows that my computer's slow, and here's a pop-up from Microsoft. Let me click this link. She did. She got in touch with somebody that said they were with Microsoft, that asked for her information, that said they could remote into her computer and help fix the computer. And she got probably about 45 minutes into this phone call and had her debit card in hand. And luckily, she says, had my voice in her head and was like, wait a second, let me call Christian. And she did, and I said, no! and she didn't, and so luckily she ultimately didn't, financially get scammed, but lost 45 minutes because of one of these. But again, it's that sense of urgency. It's that sense of I need to use my computer. I need to use my phone, and this is coming up, and maybe it's even blocking. I had that once on my iPhone where sometimes these will show your phone is no longer in service, you can't use it anymore, but you can actually get rid of that pop-up. So what the pop-up is saying is untrue. Other times, it does seem like there's certain things you can't do on your phone or your computer, but if you just restart it or you turn it off or whatever, turns out it was just that kind of scam on whatever site you were hitting. Maybe you mistyped the URL. That's what happened to me one time. I mistyped the URL to some the web address for some website that was a legitimate website that I was trying to get to, but I mistyped it by one letter and got all of this, which again is where that sort of anxiety producing piece is for me. Another one that we see, and I'm sure many of you get it, I get it, including on my work cell phone number. I'm not sure why they're, how they got a DA's office cell phone number and are sending scams to it. But I do get that where it's, hey, you got that fine, you got that parking ticket, you got that speeding ticket. Hey, your PayPal account is being locked. There's issues with your Amazon order, please click on this. Your Amazon account has been compromised, please click on this. A lot of different ways that people can do. You see the one, is it up? Yes, okay. Where it's, hey, I'm tied up. They make it sound like it's somebody you know, even though the number is not a number saved in your contact list. Hey, I'm tied up right now. I tried calling you, or I can't call you right now, but hey, I need this information really quick. And they don't even get into, the fact that they may be an unknown person. They just start with, hey, we know each other. We're a known person. And that starts to lure you in. But you see in some of this, looking for example in terms of the order failure to return, if you look at some of these links, they start to not make sense, right? Did you order a product? Did you have something with this order number? What did you buy for $85.22? Again, just taking that beat and not responding to the urgency and the anxiety that they're trying to cause, because they know if you do the click real quick, they can get you. But they know if you spend a couple minutes really looking at that and thinking about it, it starts to fall apart. And that's where when you start thinking about what the URL is, what that web link is, does that make sense? You know, thinking about the PayPal one, you may use PayPal, right? You may have a PayPal account, so maybe there is a concern. Well, you could look at that link that's on there, and if that link is suggesting that you go to a site that has nothing to do with PayPal, that's a problem. The other thing that you could look at is, don't click the link, just go right to PayPal, right? Go on to your own PayPal account, and if there is a problem, you'll see it there. Same thing with phone numbers that somebody may give you. Don't contact the phone number that maybe somebody's giving you for your bank. Instead, call the number that's on the back of your debit card. Call the number that's on your statement from the bank. It's a known number, it's a known commodity, and then if there is an issue, you can resolve it. Or they will tell you, we're not sure what you're talking about. Everything is fine, Mr. Gardner Wood. There's no issues with your account. Okay, phew. You know, then you don't get sucked into that.
Also, that one example where it was, can you do me a favor? Michael Doherty's, I don't know if you remember that, it happened a couple of years ago where Michael Doherty sent out an email saying, hey, can you do me a favor? But it wasn't him. It was actually a scammer that was sending it out to the entire DA's office. So we can't talk about scams and fraud without also talking about artificial intelligence. I'm sure you all probably have a lot of questions about artificial intelligence, but the one thing about AI is that we've been using it all along. We've been using it through our text messages when it autocorrects or kind of continues the sentence and we just click it and then it fills in the sentence. Whenever we're on Netflix or YouTube or any social media where it's really promoting products or content that we may like, this is all artificial intelligence. So it's been around, and I was playing around with it and put my own image in there, and it popped up these two images that look closely like me, but not quite. They kind of look like they may be my relatives instead. Search engines as well have a lot of AI capabilities. If you're using Google or any of the other search engines, it always gives you that AI piece first. The one thing about AI is that we do need to check it. So even though AI is spitting out a piece of information, we want to make sure that it's correct. So we still have to do our research because AI, all it does is just take all that information across the entire internet and sifts through it really quickly to give us an answer. And sometimes that answer is not correct. But scammers are using it. So scammers will use all the different technologies that we use today as consumers. Our phones, our Apple Watches, shoot, even our ovens. Some of our ovens are smart ovens. And this is really making it faster and better and really slicker for the scammers. So kind of in the situation of the workforce, like how is AI gonna take over my job? I'm sure the scammers are thinking of that too. How are those scamming jobs gonna go away? Hopefully, they'll just disappear, right? That's our best hope.
Yeah, so real quick, we're running out of time.
Yeah, we're running out of time.
Thinking about AI, anybody recognize the guy on the left? Michael Doherty, right? And the guy on the right, that's our Assistant District Attorney, Ken Kuffner. If you look at the face, it's actually really good, right? Now, I don't know that I've ever seen Michael wear a hat backwards. I wouldn't see him with a gold chain or a Knicks jersey. But you put a suit onto this guy, and that's Michael Doherty, right? And so that urgency of that message that everybody in the DA's office received, if it's an AI image of Michael Doherty saying, hey, I have a real big request, I'm at X, Y, and Z location, and AI generates an image of our boss in that location, I'm probably gonna click that link, right? Or we need to be much more concerned. So this is where AI starts to get a little scary with scams, because now suddenly it's, hey grandma, hey grandpa, hey mom, hey dad, I'm stuck. It's me, Christian, I need some help. Here I am stuck in Hawaii and I need money to get back, and it's a picture of me on a beach in Hawaii. Now we got a problem, right? Now it's, oh, maybe I do need to help, right? I wish, right, maybe it's not really a problem. So we've talked about a lot of these tips already as I've been going through the presentation, but not sharing your personal information, social security numbers, bank accounts. Be cautious about what you're sharing on social media. Again, that's where people with like those, what we call grandparent scams, where they're like, well, my granddaughter's name is Jane, and she was traveling to Hawaii. All right, now we have, again, that legitimacy that you're more likely to engage with, but that's because a scammer got that information from somewhere. Maybe it's a social media post, something like that. Be very careful with your passwords, change your passwords. When sites offer multi-factor authentication, where you have to also get a text message or an email in combination with your password, sign up for those. That's really for your protection. Those are the things that help. And always check your credit card statements, your bank statements, to make sure that everything looks correct with those. Always feel free to call the DA's office. We talked about this. Call the Attorney General's office, call the police department, report it to the Federal Trade Commission. A lot of folks out there that are trying to help you with this. And we have seen some results where we're able to get money recovered, where we're able to deal with some of these. Not always, don't get me wrong. There's definitely sometimes where somebody's lost a lot of money and I can't track it, law enforcement can't track it, we can't get it back for them. So that's why this is a problem. But sometimes we are successful in recovering that, identifying individuals, and prosecuting individuals, including a warrant I just approved last week for a couple guys in Florida who scammed somebody here in the city of Boulder for tens of thousands of dollars. So we're able to sometimes help with this, but I'd rather not be approving that warrant on the back end after somebody lost $30,000 and instead do these trainings where somebody doesn't lose $30,000 to begin with.
And we know that this presentation, when I go out, people will get super stressed out because they're like, what can I do? There's scammers everywhere. Everything connected to the internet has the ability to be breached. Well, this is Marlo. Marlo is our facility dog. He's handled by one of our investigators. And just trying to lower your cortisol levels, lower your stress a little bit. Go ahead. This is Marlo now. He has a very strong nudge control because he was trained to be a CNI dog, but decided to go into the criminal justice field. So Marlo's doing his work virtually for us today.
So I promised myself I wouldn't talk too much. It's a false promise. I'm a lawyer. I can't help myself. But we maybe have time for a couple questions. I defer to your president, maybe not.
We have time for one question.
All right.
Everybody who has a hand up. Wayne, do you have a question, Wayne? You okay?
I got good news. The man sitting here next to me has actually helped me avoid a scam. He's been my neighbor for years until I had to sell my condo and move into senior living, which I did a year ago. And Dave helped me avoid the scam. And in fact, I'll be 93 in 3 months. And he's helped me even further because a week ago I had 35 guests from Australia, Canada, and the US, and they're all medical doctors. And Dave helped me put on that campaign. Is still, my grandson was involved, that just graduated from School of Mines. He's connected them with medical doctors in Australia and Canada, and is still getting correspondence with them. I just want to thank him for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne.
Yes, of course.
Yes, I think Peter is alerting to this wonderful handout that's on the table. If you couldn't hear him, it's really terrific. So Christian and Desiree, thank you so much for this really educational, informative talk. And even though we've all been almost scammed, I had a similar thing happen to me, you just can't hear it enough, and a lot of really good ideas. So Rotary has been working to eradicate polio around the world for over 45 years, and we're very, very close. And in your honor, we are donating 100 doses of vaccine, polio vaccine, in your honor for today's talk, and I want to thank you very much.